Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we're here with the amazing Florence Klein, author of Under the Hat. And Florence, you are so incredible being in your 80s, just all the life that you've lived and the wisdom that you have. And, you made a comment we talked about earlier in this segment briefly about hurdles that you've gone through, but probably now there's a lot about aging and a concept called ageism. And I would love you talk a lot about what that's like and growing older. Would you elaborate on that for me?
Well, what is the meaning of old? Oh, you're old? I have always felt that the word old, when referring to someone who is of a certain age, starts very young. I never considered my grandmom, Ida, old. Yes, I was aware that she was older than me. However, I never thought of her as incapable or incompetent to take charge of her life. And so she was an active woman. And we often blurt out the word old carelessly, not at all realizing the negative connotations. And I personally have always believed that the concept of old stays with you from an early age on throughout. Even now, at 89,
You're
I
amazing.
do not consider myself old. I know that's all relative. But we all know how the person that may be 31 or 32 considers themselves old.
Absolutely.
And so let's look at the definition of the term ageism, because it differs from just being older. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary describes ageism as a prejudice or discrimination against a particular age group, and especially the elderly.
Yep.
And that's where the process of systematically and stereotyping or discrimination against people because they are old, just as racism and sexism accomplish with their skin color and gender. And that's why we're now hearing about ageism itself. And
we hear it a lot talking about our president, like he's too old.
That's
it's
right.
Like, this is the thing that blows me away. It's like, who are the people that somebody's saying they're too old? What is the benchmark that they're using? What is the belief systems that they're using? All the different things. We are all equal human beings on this earth. And I lived it when I started my company in my 50s. Everybody looked at me and said, well, gee, we'd rather fund somebody that's a 30-year-old because after all, they've got more life in them. There's all these ideas of, who people are. What have you found, I guess, in your world? You're 30 years ahead of me or 20 years ahead of me. How does that affected your life?
I never considered it, as I just said, as being old, it's not just older people that are discriminated against. It's younger people that are also discriminated against. Older people sometimes discriminate the youth, especially adolescents and children. And ageism takes different forms, such as and media is very condescending toward it. And media themselves says, oh, you're so young, or you're just too young for that. And that's what happened. And elders also perpetuate themselves and ageism, they themselves. And so we have to be more aware of it. And that's why now people are talking about it, because after all, so much more of the population, fortunately, is staying healthier and living longer.
Right.
And that's where ageism comes in so much.
Sure. And I think, I go back to my world in the corporate world. I was in my 50s interviewing for jobs that 35-year-olds were interviewing for. Well, guess what? They would always go with the 35-year-old. There's such a thing as they call it age discrimination, but it's a still concept of a mindset of a world that people are around. They're more than capable. And then yet you see amazing seniors that have done incredible things like yourself. And that's something that, you are such a testament to, the fact that the world has got it sideways. They're not meriting people for who they are. And I think that's something that's so powerful about your story and coming back. So you've been a trailblazer through stockbrokering, and then you started Silver Planet. And I want to go in our next segment and talk a little bit more about Silver Planet. But you went to helping seniors. How did you get to that point?
I had an idea that seniors were empty. We're talking about 2002, and I realized that they needed some help. Yeah. And I thought about it, and so I conceived the idea that I moved to Colorado, and I felt that why not provide seniors with some resources.
Sure.
And so I contacted psychiatrists and physicians, and I had my own brokerage firm to give them a base that they could call in and get resources. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and I got involved in something else. So it took me another year or so, and I decided to start Silver Planet. And with Silver Planet, we began to have pages and pages on a wonderful website, and talked about nutrition, talked about cookbooks. I had a whole cookbook. People could call in. People tried to find out where they could go. And it became very worthwhile. And even when I had moved to Bainbridge, somebody came up to me in the store and said, I remember your book. Not your book, your website. And
that's fabulous.
And so today, in 2023, there are still such needs.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that in our next segment. In the meantime, for those of you that are interested in Florence's story, please check it out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. It's called Florence Under the Hat. And we'll be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.